Hello, welcome back to another video of Math of the Day. Today is May 20th, 2025, and today we will be learning about slope-intercept form, which is also widely known as y equals mx plus b. And today we will be learning what m is and what b is, but we already know what y and x are because they're in our equations right now, and we've actually solved for them to find our solutions in our system. But today we will be learning about what m is and what b is, and we'll also be graphing our equations in slope-intercept form to really show what m and b are equal to. So m is known as the slope of the line, which are equations where actually if you were to graph them, they graph a line, which we'll also be learning tomorrow about how to solve systems of linear equations through graphing, because these two equations would give us two different lines on a coordinate plane. So m is known as our slope, which basically means how fast the line is increasing or decreasing. And then b is known as our y-intercept, which basically means where the line crosses the vertical intercept, or the y-axis, or the vertical axis. So it's known as the y-intercept. So we can convert these equations into slope-intercept form to identify our slope and y-intercept. So all we have to do is we have to get y by itself. So let's start with our first equation. 2x plus y is equal to 7. If we want to get y by itself, we just subtract 2x from both sides, and we get y equals negative 2x plus 7. As you can see, this is in slope-intercept form because y is right there. Negative 2 is m, so negative 2 is our slope, and then 7 is our y-intercept. And then we can now turn this equation, 3x minus y equals 8, into slope-intercept form. So 3x minus y equals 8. To get y by itself, we subtract 3x from both sides. And now we have negative y is equal to negative 3x plus 8. But we want to get y by itself, not negative y, so in order to get y positive, we have to multiply both sides by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative y is equal to negative 1 times negative 3x plus 8. So now we can just distribute each of these terms, or each of these factors. So negative y times negative 1 is y, and then negative 1 times negative 3x would be 3x, and then negative 1 times 8 is equal to negative 8. So now we have y equals 3x minus 8. We have our two equations in slope-intercept form, and we can now identify our slope and y-intercepts, and we will actually be using Desmos for the next part. So I'm going to go to Desmos, and I'll see you there. Hello, as you can see, I am now in Desmos.com, and here we will be analyzing the slope and y-intercept of our two equations that are graphed here. So this equation, y equals negative 2x plus 7, which is one of the equations that we got on paper just a bit ago, is graphed in red. And then y equals 3x minus 8 is graphed in blue, and we will be analyzing the slope and y-intercept of both of these lines. So slope is basically just how steep is your line, but we'll go into more detail about this. So we'll start off with our first equation, y equals negative 2x plus 7. So I think it's always easy to start at the point where it crosses our y-axis, which for this equation is 0, 7. And to analyze slope, it's basically for every x value. So like every time you increase by 1 on the x-axis, your y value should change by your slope in your equation. So basically, with this equation, for when every time x increases by 1, y should decrease by 2. So let's just say we go from 0, 7, and we increase x by 1. Our y value should be 7 minus 2, because our slope is decreasing by 2, which if we see here, we can look at where x is equal to 1, and if we look at where that point is on the line, which is right here, we can see that it is exactly at 1, 5, because 7 minus 2 is 5. Hopefully that made sense. So now we can continue on to our next equation. So starting off, like how I said last time, at where it crosses the y-axis, we are at 0, negative 8. And let's see what the slope is. So we increase by 1 on x, and we should be adding by 3 for our y value because our slope is positive 3. So if we look right here, this is where x is equal to 1. If we match that up to where the line is, we get 1, negative 5. And that makes sense because we had negative 8, but we're increasing by 3 for our slope, so we're adding 3 to negative 8, so we get negative 5. And hopefully these two equations made sense. And now we can continue on to y-intercept. Y-intercept is pretty much what its name is. It's where the line intercepts the y-axis, or where it touches the y-axis. So it's pretty easy. You just look for where the line crosses the y-axis, which would be right at this point right here for our first equation, which is at 0, 7. And you know this is your y-axis because, or you know this is your y-intercept because x is equal to 0. So that's pretty much it. And we can see that this is our y-intercept because our y-intercept in y equals mx plus b form. B is our y-intercept, which should be 7, which we can see on the graph. That is correct. So now let's move on to our second equation. So we come down, we can see exactly where it crosses the y-axis, which is right here at 0, negative 8. And this makes sense because our b value is negative 8, so our y-intercept is negative 8. That's pretty much it for today because we just analyzed slope and y-intercept and how to change how to turn our original equations into slope-intercept form. I hope you learned something new today, and thank you for tuning in to Math of the Day. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, and goodbye.